Givesy and version2.ai are solving nonprofit fundraising's biggest challenges by building the world's first fully autonomous fundraiser and digital gift documentation management system. This is Matt from MGMT Boston, and on this episode of The Lantern, we have Kevin Walsh, the co-founder of Melodi, an analytics for successful AI startup, and we're going to talk about what his team is building, what he's learned from his career at HubSpot, bringing that into Melodi, and with the AI wave upon us, what's going on out in the world. So, Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Matt.
First and foremost, what is Melodi? What is your team building?
Yeah, so Melodi is a platform that helps teams measure the business success of their AI programs.
Sure.
So we provide basically a logging tool that produces a bunch of analytics around AI agent conversations with users. That's kind of like our first use case. So that helps you measure not only sort of like the performance of the model, but we provide user analytics so that you can track familiar things like activation and retention, and we provide segmentation. So it's really acting as the interface layer between the technical teams and sort of like the product and the business unit teams who are responsible for making sure that all of the investment that companies are making right now into AI is actually having like a real meaningful effect on the business.
Absolutely. And things are changing so fast. DeepSeek is coming out, replacing OpenAI. Anthropic releases a new model. Undoubtedly, every day, you sort of have to think of things in a new way. So what is happening inside your startup today, and how are you thinking about this spring and what you all are most focused on?
Yeah, day to day, we're spending a ton of time actually on like our core intelligence platform, which is like all of the algorithm design that we are doing that produces the derived analytics that people are using. So one example of that is, we have sophisticated tooling to help people understand user intents. So that if you do have an AI agent, everybody's going to be asking about different things. And if you are a product team, you're going to want to understand that, like, okay, I have people who are asking about two different things, and the performance of my agent is different across those two things.
Right.
And while just understanding the difference is important, like, that may be okay, because maybe people are asking about completely off-topic things, and so you don't actually want to improve that piece of it. And so the machine learning work that happens behind the scenes in order to like make those classifications of user intents and user intent discovery, that's something that I spend a lot of time day to day on right now. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton. Like, we've been at this for a year and a half, and so we move fast. Like, I worked for a very long time at HubSpot. When I left, it was a very big company, and as fast as I thought it was there, it's nothing like building something from truly 0 to 1.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, that HubSpot experience must have been an incredible learning experience. Now you've rewound the clock to start even earlier than you started at HubSpot. What have you learned that you would pass back to up-and-coming operators, other founders just starting out, or even more seasoned pros that just want to get better in the AI age?
Yeah, I have maybe paradoxical advice in that, like, anybody can do it, and it is as hard as they say it is. Candidly, I'm kind of like an opportunistic founder. Like, I worked for a long time at HubSpot. I had an amazing time there. I got to build the AI team like from the ground up. And so I had like a ton of ownership over the whole thing. And that started in like 2015. And like the machine learning world was very, very different in 2015. Like, a lot of the platforms and tooling and models, you couldn't buy them. Like, you couldn't buy SageMaker or Google Cloud. You certainly couldn't buy things like OpenAI, like a pre-trained language model like that. So we had to do everything from scratch, from like the infrastructure to the models to the entire product. So that experience was like totally transformational. But honestly, like, we learned mostly through like messing up over and over and over again. And I built a lot of models and launched a lot of products. We launched like over 60 features at HubSpot that had some machine learning model in the background, and like probably 25% of those, but like that percentage of success like definitely increased over time. So I learned a ton from that. And the biggest thing, especially in the AI space, that I tell people is like, it's kind of Fight Club rules, where like the first rule about like AI products is try your best to not do AI. And that's something that like we feel that Melodi has like a differentiated voice on that piece of it in particular. Is there's tons of tooling that are kind of more data science focused on valuing like traditional precision and recall and like accuracy metrics. And while those are like good and important, you may be building the wrong model fundamentally. So you have to make sure that you're focusing on what is the user problem. Or if you have two intents, one of those intents may be out of scope. And so the way to improve that is to not work on the model, but is to change the design or to change the onboarding experience of a product. And that's where you're going to get the best lift the fastest. It's also something that is the most familiar to folks. This is like just good old fashioned product work. And that's something that I think more and more teams are learning. the genie's been out of the bottle with sort of like the post ChatGPT craze and sort of like all of the pressure that teams have been under to actually implement and adopt these technologies, these pre-trained language models.
Right.
And it's been highly experimental. It's been like not a lot of scale. And so we're starting to see like maturity. And that's really where like Melodi fits in. Is like now you're like, okay, we like kind of have like the tradecraft piece of this down a little bit. And now we need to figure out how like we actually transform some element of the business, whether that's your customer facing product or your internal operations.
Yeah, the first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about it. Last but not least, how can we in the community help you? What are some things Melodi needs help with, you need help with in your role? What can we help out with?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're always looking to connect with like great customers. I think like a good fit customer for us is somebody who is just out of that sort of experimentation phase.
Cool.
These are very loose numbers, but if you have some kind of AI agent that's getting at least hundreds of kind of conversations, or if you expect to soon, that's like really where we start to be very helpful to teams. And we also are very helpful if you are like an operations person or an analyst, somebody that may be outside of the core engineering team. While the tool set is definitely helpful to the core engineering team, we're also finding that those sort of adjacent roles that are typically responsible for the success of the program, they have a lack of tooling and they have been great fit customers for us to work with so far.
Cool. This is Kevin from Melodi, Matt from MGMT Boston, and this episode of The Lantern. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This was a blast.